Hello guys and welcome to the second video of the week number 6. So in the video number 1, the first video lesson, I was explaining the song, let's say some of the symbolic and literal meaning that the song did have, illustrating you about the story, illustrating you about different things related to it. Okay, now that is an interpretation that I did at some point of my life based on basically intuition and analysis, and well, of course initially I just liked the song many years ago, and then eventually I started like analyzing that, etc., right? So hopefully everything I told you makes sense, right? Like, you compare the lyrics versus what I explain, and there is a certain level of plausibility. You say, okay, yes, Diego sort of right about it. Like, makes sense. It's nothing like too stretched, right? Now, what I want to show you right now is the story of the song, like the official story of the song, and how it was composed and how it was inspired, etc. And you will see that there are a lot of differences, right? Because it's always difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to determine exactly what the author was thinking. And well, that is somehow the beauty of it, and that is why we continue studying and analyzing a lot of different things, even after many centuries, right? It happens, like, for example, with Shakespeare, with many different literary works that are somehow analyzed because we don't have a definitive version, right? Once we have a definitive version, well, we can stop analyzing because let's say that the analysis is over, and that is why, like, many authors, poets, novelists, storytellers, they never like give a definitive version of an interpretation of a poem, or, I mean, a literary work. They're not stupid, of course. They know that if they do that, well, somehow their work will be less valid. Yes, because an official version is going to cancel any other speculation, analysis, studies, etc. This happens a lot also with filmmakers, with songwriters, in which they leave these open interpretations for people, and they never say, like, specifically, well, this song is about this film is about this, what I meant in the end of this movie was this. So that's it, okay? So we have this rare occasion in which we have sort of an official version of a particular literary piece. In this case, it is a song, right? So I have this book that is called Los Beatles, Canciones Completas, las historias que hay detrás de cada una de sus canciones. Okay, so this is the whole, let's say, compilation of lyrics of the Beatles, and we have some sort of official, let's say, interpretations or meanings for some of their songs, that are not directly even by the songwriters, but some of their managers and different things that give like a little bit of a certainty, right? That the interpretation is more or less correct. Okay, so I'm going to read to you textually what I have here. Something really short. It's a page, so just pay close attention. And this is in Spanish. Unfortunately, the original version is in English. This was written by Steve Turner, but I have the version in Spanish. Nevertheless, I think it's good enough, okay? So it says something like this. Como ocurría con muchas de las canciones de Paul, la melodía y las primeras palabras de Eleanor Rigby se le ocurrieron mientras tocaba el piano en casa. Preguntarse a sí mismo qué tipo de persona era la que barría el arroz en una iglesia donde acababa de celebrarse una boda le condujo a su protagonista. Primero lo llamó Miss Daisy Hawkins. That sounds a little bit like Miss Daisy Hawkins. It would have worked, right? Ya que este nombre se ajustaba al ritmo. Paul empezó imaginándose a Daisy como una chica joven, pero pronto se dio cuenta de que cualquier persona que limpiara después de una boda seguramente sería mayor. Especuló con que si era mayor podía ser una solterona, y la iglesia vacía se convertiría entonces en una metáfora de sus oportunidades de matrimonio perdidas. Su personaje se basaba en sus recuerdos de la gente mayor que había visto y escuchado en sus correrías cuando era un Boy Scout en Liverpool. No se me ocurría nada más, así que la reservé, recuerda. Continuó reflexionando sobre la canción, pero no estaba contento con el nombre Miss Daisy Hawkins, porque no sonaba lo suficientemente real, entre comillas. Donovan, el cantante de folk de los años 70, recuerda a Paul tocándole una versión de la canción en la que la protagonista se llamaba Ola Natonji. Todavía no había dado con el nombre que buscaba, dice Donovan. Siempre dijo que el nombre de Eleanor se le ocurrió por Eleanor Brown, la actriz protagonista de Help, the movie, right? They have a movie that is homonymous. Homonym? Oh, I forgot that word, sorry, in English. To the album that they had. Pero el compositor Lionel Bart estaba convencido de que la elección estaba inspirada en una tumba del cementerio de Putney Vale, en Londres, que vieron cuando paseaban juntos una tarde. El nombre de la lápida era Eleanor Bygraves, dijo Bart, y Paul pensó que encajaría en su canción. Vino a mi estudio y empezó a tocarla en mi clavicordio. Con respecto al apellido no hay desacuerdo. Paul encontró el apellido Rigby en enero de 1966, estando en Bristol para visitar a Jane Asher, que interpretaba el papel de Barbara Calhoun en la obra de John Dickton, The Happiest Day of Your Life. El Royal Theatre, sede de Bristol Old Vic, está en el número 35 de King Street, y mientras Paul esperaba a que Jane terminase, se dio una vuelta y pasó por delante de la tienda Rigby and Evans Limited, Wine and Spirit Shippers, que entonces estaba en el número 22 del lado opuesto de la calle. Rigby era el apellido de 2 sílabas que estaba buscando para que encajara con Eleanor. La canción se completó en Kenwood cuando John, George, Ringo y un amigo de infancia de John, Pete Stodham, entraron en la sala de música donde Paul estaba tocando. Todos aportaban ideas para desarrollar la historia. Uno de ellos sugirió a un anciano rebuscando en los cubos de basura con quien Eleanor Rigby podría tener un romance, pero decidieron que complicaría la trama. Se sopesó la idea de introducir a un sacerdote llamado Padre McCartney. Ringo sugirió que podría estar remendando sus calcetines, una idea que Paul le gustó. George aportó una frase sobre personas solitarias. Paul pensó que llamar al sacerdote Padre McCartney haría que la gente creyera que se refería a su padre. Abrieron una guía de teléfonos y escogió Mackenzie como alternativa. Where in the Face That She Keeps in a Jar by the Door, una de las imágenes más impactantes de la canción, puede estar inspirada en el poema de 1920 The Love Song of J. Alfred Puck, en el que T.S. Eliot escribió sobre el momento en el que es necesario to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. Jane Asher era pariente lejana de Eliot por su madre, Margaret Eliot. Paul se quedó bloqueado al pensar cómo concluir su historia. Pete Stodham sugirió que las dos personas solitarias, Rigby y Mackenzie, se reuniesen en el verso final donde el padre Mackenzie presidiría el funeral de Eleanor Rigby y se quedaría junto a su tumba. Yo rechazó la idea ya que pensaba que Stodham se había ido del tema, pero Paul, que no dijo nada en ese momento, acabó utilizándolo. Sorprendentemente, en los años 80 se descubrió la lápida de una Eleanor Rigby en el cementerio de la iglesia parroquial de St. Peter en Woolton, a escasa distancia del lugar donde John y Paul se conocieron en 1957. En la fiesta anual de verano de la iglesia es cierto que en la fiesta anual de la iglesia allí se conocieron. Es cierto que Paul no sacó su idea directamente de esta lápida, pero es posible que la viera cuando era un adolescente y el nombre quedara grabado en su subconsciente. El hecho de que, como dijo Eleanor Rigby, sonaba natural, podría deberse a que ya había visto el nombre en su cabeza. Esta Eleanor Rigby nació en el número 8 de Bell Road en Woolton en agosto de 1895 como Eleanor Whitfield. Tomó el apellido Rigby de su abuelo materno. Se casó a los 35 años, pero no tuvo hijos y murió de una hemorragia cerebral en octubre de 1939 en la misma casa en la que había nacido. Tenía 44 años. No se conoce ninguna fotografía suya. Otra coincidencia era que la firma de Rigby and Evans Limited, cuyo rótulo había inspirado a Paul en Bristol en 1966, originariamente se estableció en Dale Street, Liverpool, de la mano de Frank Rigby, un hombre de la localidad. Cuando se publicó, George Harrison pensaba que la canción era tan extraña que probablemente solo atraería a los tipos de Ray Davies, una referencia al líder de los Kinks, que componía canciones como Well Respected Man y Dedicated Follower of Fashion, que contaban historias sobre la gente corriente. Como single, Eleanor Rigby alcanzó la cima de las Islas Británicas, pero solo el 11º puesto en Estados Unidos. there's a couple of photographs in here that I want to show you very briefly. It says, arriba a la izquierda, la lápida de Eleanor Rigby en el cementerio de la iglesia parroquial de San Pedro Walton, donde yo asistía de niño. You can see over here, that is the tombstone of our one and only Eleanor Rigby. Arriba a la derecha, en el directorio de calles de Bristol de 1966, puede verse Rigby and Evans en el número 22 de King Street y Old Vic en el 1935. Como una pequeña fotografía de eso. And finally, Izquierda Ron de Jamaica, importado por Rigby and Evans Limited, la compañía cuyo nombre inspiró a Eleanor Rigby. And this one over here. So they have from Jamaica over there, and actually they have from Jamaica and Jamaica as well, which is a useless data that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so if you take a look at a comparison between what the song sort of mean, or the meaning that you can extract from the song, like the one that I did, because that interpretation is purely mine, and the real inspirations and what they had in mind, and well, etc. There is some distance, no? Like between the history of the song, how it was written, how it was inspired, and the reality somehow of the reality, the possibilities of interpretations that we can extract in there, right? So we already have, let's say, my version, my interpretation somehow. We have the history of the song. Finally, let's talk about the period, right? So definitely this can be included into the Renaissance period, right? Now, take into account that by the time that we analyzed the song, you had only covered 3 periods, right? Only 3. So if I have to be strictly, let's say, faithful to classification, I think that this could be in the modern period, for example, or even in the postmodern period. But we haven't taken that. Yes, we haven't studied that yet, so you didn't have like a way to know that. Now, among the 2 or 3 periods that, 3 or 4 periods that we have already somehow studied, definitely is Renaissance, okay? And there are a lot of many reasons. You guys provided really interesting reasons, many of them really close to what I think and what I consider there could be good reasons for classification. But well, there are a lot. So first of all, let's think about self-questioning. Yes, self-questioning about the role of man in the universe, right? This persistent interrogation of where do we come from, where are we going? Yes, that is a central topic, and it's repeated and it's mentioned once and again and again and again. It's repetitive, so this can be definitely a good reason for that. It's one of the main topics of classification of Renaissance. I'm sorry. Then we can deal with the futility of human being, right? The futility of existence. The life of Eleanor Rigby was meaningless. It didn't matter at all. In the end, she died. She was forgotten. Nobody came to her life to her funeral, and her life was somehow wasted. Yes, I mean, if you were going to make a balance at the end of her life, she didn't have anybody to remember her, right? So probably she did great things, or good things, or evil things, or bad things. We don't know. But whatever she did, in the end, it didn't matter, right? Because she was alone. Then we have Father Mackenzie, with a spiritual mission, with a compromise, with effort, with his discipline of writing his sermons, of darning his socks, probably for a long time. I don't know. Somehow I always imagine Father Mackenzie as an old man, right? Let's say an old priest. We don't know. It could have been a father who was sort of young, but the song never provides those details, but that's what I imagine. I don't know you. So he was trying to do all this effort. He was so committed to his cause, but he was losing his let's say his parishioners, the people who were supposed to be visiting him and be guided through the Christian model that he is supposed to communicate. And well, he's losing his presence, he's losing attendance, and in the end he's losing the souls of these people. Like, he couldn't save anybody in the end, no? So that's definitely a Renaissance period, because somehow this refers to the futility of existence, to not knowing what our role in the universe is, and well, all these different things. We also somehow see that even though Eleanor Rigby is the protagonist, well, she is not very relevant, right? So the role of women over here apparently seems to be made of suffering, of not being very relevant, of being even though being is the protagonist, well, she doesn't seem to be that important, right? That is a little bit like the Elizabethan period, or Renaissance period, or Shakespeare period, right? In which we have this monarch who is a queen, but let's say, at least in the events that we analyze, there was still a long way to go until the role of women being valued very much, right? We have this collective thing of all the lonely people, right? How without the presence of God, somehow, either let's say in a real way for people who are believers, and in a metaphorical way, it was a presence that was a period, that was far from God's influence. So definitely these lonely people were on their own. Yes, that is what I mentioned in the explanation of the period. Like all your triumphs, but also your defeats, all your discoveries and advances, but also your questions, your unanswered questions, your difficulties. Everything was your own responsibility as a human, right? So, well, that is another reason. Some people got confused for the presence of the church and for the presence of the priest, right? And they say, oh, this must be Middle English, because they talk about a priest and a church and somehow something religious like a wedding. So you have to be careful about it. I mean, not the only mention of an aspect or a theme is like a guarantee that is that period. So definitely it's not Middle English, because remember that in Middle English there was a praise for God, there was a complete faith in His power, there was a certainty that, let's say, most of all of things, I mean everything, despite how sad, tragic, horrible, cruel was part of God's plan, and everybody believed in that without question. So saying that your life was meaningless, without purpose, that a priest couldn't save anybody, well, that is completely opposite to the values of Middle English. Yes, because it reflects lack of faith. Yes, it reflects a faithless and hopeless society, and a society that is lonely. Whereas in Middle English, the presence of God was everywhere. Like saying that you were lonely was somehow a sin, because you were discarding the presence of God. Okay, so for that reason, it definitely wasn't Middle English. So hopefully, guys, it is more or less clear. As I mentioned, I have already mentioned some of these details before, individually to some of you, but now we can do it in a more general way, and that's hopefully clearer. Well, so all of this, everything that I have mentioned, it's to give you the two assignments of this week. Okay, so remember I mentioned we are not going to cover an additional period in this week number 6. We are going to review a little bit of the first 4 periods that we have. So what we're going to do is this. Please attention for the instruction. Assignment number 1. You're going to work as usual, groups of 4 people, 3, 2, 1, as you prefer. And I am going to assign on a list of names a period. Yes, so I'm going to assign you the Anglo-Saxon or the Middle English or the Renaissance or the British colonialism. Okay? You are going to look for a song that you consider that in its lyrics alludes to that period. Okay? A song that represents the themes, the characteristics, the topics, maybe sometimes the language, or some of the linguistic features of that period. I know that it's sometimes impossible to find one that is perfect, right? That has everything that it is supposed to have every period. So you're going to try to look for one that covers most of them. Yes, that it talks about the themes and talks about maybe some of the things related to the role of women, and that's it. If it doesn't have, for example, if it's Anglo-Saxon and you're completely unable to find one that has kennings, well, that's okay. If it's Middle English but has nothing related to French, for example, that's fine. As long as you have the themes and some of the other ideals of the period, that will be more than okay. It will be fine, right? And well, I just take advantage to tell that not because a song doesn't have a particular component of language, like you have to discard it immediately of being that. Okay, so you're going to select this song, and you're going to do those 2 or 3 things that I just did. Okay, first of all, you are going to explain what is the song about. Okay, I'm going to provide a little summary of what is the song about, what they're trying to say in the song, the story. You may paraphrase it, something like that, as it's going to have most likely some symbolic elements, such as the face in the jar, such as the rice, all these different things in the song that I explained. So you're going to explain that in your song as well. So that will be explaining or paraphrasing the story, explaining the possible symbolic meanings. If you are able to do so, because I know that sometimes it's difficult, okay, you're going to try to look for the history of the song, such as like the one that I find over here that I share with you in Spanish. So you're going to do it in that way. Of course, I guess it's going to be shorter because sometimes like it's impossible to find the story, or you cannot find like interviews or something like that, right? So you're going to do that. You may do like a little comparison between them, but well, let's say first of all your interpretation, later on like the story of the song, if you're able to get it. Now, if it's completely impossible for you to find it, it's okay. We're going to skip that part, okay? But try to do it because I think it's something good and it will help you understand a little bit better the song, okay? And finally, you are going to find 3 reasons, explain 3 reasons why you think that song belongs to the period that you selected. Yes, to Anglo-Saxon, Middle English, Renaissance, or British colonialism. Okay, that's it. So it would basically, the assignment number 1, summarizing 2 or 3 parts, describing the song, finding the story if possible, explaining 3 reasons for classifying the song, right? Remember, one more time, you should be already aware of this. I am repeating just in case, but you should be very clear on this. Remember, you don't need to go and look for a song specifically written at that time, yes? Because it would be difficult, if not impossible. So you're going to do it in that way. Just you can take a modern song, or somehow a song that is not so old, and analyze it and decide that it belongs to a particular period, okay? So please then include the lyrics of the song in your report, and then your dissertation. I'm going to give you an option. I don't think anybody's going to use it, but anyway, if you want to do it, be my guest. You can do this like doing a video or an audio, as I just did, yes, and explain it in that way, or simply you can write it a little bit, not less interesting, but I won't penalize you for that, because I know that some of you do not have the possibilities of recording video or audio, and also it's difficult to meet or something like that. So it's up to you. You can use any of these three means. Finally, guys, for the assignment number 2, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to upload a short text, a couple of pages. You're going to read it, and you're going to classify it in one of the periods, giving 3 reasons for it. Okay? So basically, you read it. There will be a question about interpretation, and then a second question about providing 3 reasons for classifying. As usual, remember, we will continue with this, let's say, persistent question. Provide 3 reasons for classifying in one of the periods that we already have, or that could be another options. No, that reading doesn't correspond to any of the periods that we have studied yet. So you can say, no, definitely it's not Anglo-Saxon, not Middle English, not Renaissance, not British colonialism. Must be a different thing, right? So you have all those options. Hopefully it's clear, guys. Remember, read the song. In the second assignment, read the text. Give it an interpretation, like what is the story about, a little summary, something short, 4 or 5 sentences, depending on the length, and finally a justification about the period in which it is somehow included. This is also collective. You can work in groups of 4 people, 3, 2, 1, as you prefer. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Hope this helps you to practice a little bit. In 2 weeks we have the exam. I mean, this is the week number 6, so we have 1 more week for another period or another 2. We will verify, and then in the week number 8 we will have the exam and the interview. Okay, so please be prepared, because this is almost at hand. So your first book must be almost over, and if you have any question about the previous periods or of the other activities, this will be the time to work with it. Okay, so guys, thank you very much. Have a great day and see you around. Thank you. Bye bye and hugs.